Well, we should talk about another new movie that's not brand new this week or
Yeah.
the day this episode comes out, but it's I think it came out last week or very recently, and I really only saw it because the day that you commented on having seen it, Ronald, I just saw a flurry of people online talking about it, and it
Yeah.
suddenly was like, oh, I didn't realize A24 had made a Red State movie. That's what people were saying on
Oh my
online here.
God.
Which I think is interesting, but I also think it's sort of true, but it's also sort of not, because it's like the treatment of this material is it's an interesting treatment of like military action. Anyway, so we're talking about the movie Warfare, which is in theaters now, and it's a co-directing effort from Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. I was kind of surprised to see Alex Garland have a movie so soon after Civil War in the theaters, but this looks like a movie that was kind of conceived. I think Ray Mendoza was an advisor on Civil War or something, and then that kind of led to this script, which is based on the real firsthand accounts of these soldiers that were in this insane action. That was basically just. I can't tell if the end of the movie, if I fully understood what was going on, Ronald, or if the point of the movie was how pointless all this was in a way. But I do think it was a little bit of both. Like, I do think there's a larger context of when this is falling in and where it's happening. But there also is a general sense at the end of, they come through, they try to take a house, they try to hold their position, they can't really hold their position, they get fucked up, they get evacuated, and then you see the movie ends with you sort of understanding, like you sort of see the people that are still there start to return to some state of like, oh, that's over.
You got A24, which is it's a slice of life movie. So A24 seems to be like the experts of slice of life movies. And in particular, this one was one of those ones that it's just a day. It's just a day of this escape route. Like you said, like it's just this one block of time, Steve, and it is intense as shit. When it first starts off and it just kind of like in this house, they kind of take over this house.
Right.
And set up their position, and they're trying to escape while also assessing the danger around.
And it's literally like 1 minute in that they are like walking up and saying, "I like this house. I think we should take it." It's like there's not much story. I mean, if you know the historical context of it's the Battle of Ramadi in 2006, I think, is when it's set, or is that Ramadi? I never know how to pronounce that. But yeah, you're right, Ronald. They just come walking up, and the way they come creeping up, like. It's that kind of thing where it's super quiet, but it's also not quiet. I don't know. You were talking about the sound design of Sinners. I thought the sound design of this movie was really important to the tone of it too.
Was for sure.
But yeah, Ronald. So you were saying they end up taking this house, and then
it just gets really crazy. And I think that one of the things that's really important is I think that a lot of war movies feel very like pro. Whatever, pro-America, and this doesn't feel quite as. This just feels like a group of resilient kids that are in a situation that feels almost unbeatable. Like it's like things are coming from all sides, Steve. Like there's one event that kind of kicks it all off that makes it feel like. There's no way they're getting out of this shit.
And that's relatively early. It's about halfway in, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's like you realize that you weren't. It's that, in any movie like this, you're wondering who's going to be the characters that are kind of going to come through and who's going to get messed up and who's going to die. And you have all those thoughts. But like I would argue that in my mind, the two most interesting characters get not so much taken out, but like. About halfway in, their situation changes, and then you're finding out about some of these other characters, and it's just a really interesting arc for the movie to have because it is very slice of life, and it doesn't feel like they manipulated the narrative too much because it doesn't. It's not like a super. And I don't. This is going to sound like a complaint, but it's not. It's not like a satisfying narrative. It's a very unsatisfying story, but it's that way by design. Like what happens really is just a loss.
Yeah.
They're trying to escape. They find a thing, like, and then things get bad, and your only hope. It's like it reminds me of one of those horror movies where at the end, if the people make it onto like a raft at the end and float away, you're like, hey, they got away. Like that's all you're really hoping for, is to see these people get out of this situation. And Ronald, it felt very claustrophobic. There were certain parts of this movie where and confusing. Like you don't really know. Yeah. And if you were in that situation, so often in a movie you have a bird's eye view. You're like, well, this is what I would do. I didn't know what I would do in any moment of this movie.
And what they do to make it even more rough is like, every time something happens, it's like this. You can see people developing shell shock like right there. It's like oh, this is how this happens. Like how you watch some military movies, everybody's like right, shooting people, bashing people's brains in. This is very different. It's like the trauma of it all happens so immediately, and it affects people differently. And sometimes it's like part of the battle is just nursing a person to a point where they're functional after something traumatic happens, which I don't think I've ever seen in a movie happen to so many people in a group. Like it is traumatic, like hearing the bullets and watching the explosions and watching your friends hurt, and the immediacy of the fear and what it does to some of the people in the group is so jarring. Like it's like at first I was like, toughen up, and I'm like, what would I would be crouched in a corner. Like I wouldn't be able to handle this. This is fucking traumatic. And they're not even out of the situation, at the point where all the traumatic stuff happens. It is somehow it's gorgeous in a way. Like it's like there's something about them being plopped down in the tight shots that's really kind of beautiful. The sun piercing through, because it's going from like midday into the evening, and the dynamic between the characters is so fucking good. Like they really feel like brothers. One of the guys from Reservation Dogs is in it.
Yeah,
DeFaro
Wunatai.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's incredible in it.
He's kind of the main guy. He's playing Mendoza. He plays.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I was watching the movie, that his character, like, it was fun to watch him just pop up, but it's very clear very quickly that we're following him a little more closely. But everyone's great in this. You know who was fantastic in this, Ronald? It's Cosmo Jarvis. That section of the movie where he's just looking through the sight of the rifle and he's just commenting, and you could feel his breath as he's like steadying up a shot, and you hear him like breathing, and it's got this agitation in it, but it also you can feel how he's using his breath to steady himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like his accent work, I thought was a strange thing to point out, but he had a great, as a guy from the South, he had a great Southern accent, and he's a guy who sounded like fucking Richard Burton on Shogun. You know?
Yeah.
I expected him to show up, and it's like, yeah. But no, Steve. He's more like he's like this. He's a guy who's like, all right, dude, I need to take a break.
Yeah.
And it's just so real. And it's like, it took me a minute to even know that it was him. Like, I knew that he was in this, but it took me a minute to notice. I have to say, though, if you're looking for that sort of Black Hawk Down thing of like, will you one day look back and say this was an amazing cast? I think this already is an amazing cast.
Yeah.
Joseph Quinn. DeFaro. We just mentioned Cosmo Jarvis, but Michael Gandolfini is great in this.
Yes.
And
Will
Poulter.
Will Poulter.
Fantastic.
This cast is crazy.
Yeah. And they're all doing what you just said, Ronald. There's that midpoint in the movie where a guy with a little bit of shell shock is noticing a guy who has a lot of shell shock.
Yes,
you know?
Yeah.
And there's that guy who wanders off and has this, like, stands there forever. That guy was really good too.
He was incredible, man.
But you worried about him from the start. He seemed like he was kind of on edge a little bit more. But he's a guy that just goes deer in headlights at a certain point. And it was like, I'm not saying I've never seen that in a movie. I don't think I've ever seen it depicted, kind of what you said, Ronald, of just like, at this point, there's nobody who's in control of this group of guys who knows how to bring stability to the situation. So it's just a lot of, I mean, you almost would say this movie was one note, but I was thinking about it. It's actually three notes. It's really quiet. it's bullets, and it's a bunch of people yelling. And then fourth note is that thing where you're in the minds of the characters and you're hearing their distorted hearing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a moment of after an explosion where it takes a long time for us to get back to like the real world of sound. And when it is, it's the sound of somebody screaming in agony, which goes on for, that's the fifth note. Somebody screaming in agony is one of the notes in this movie. So maybe it's a 5-note movie, but either way, I'm saying I could see some people finding this movie unrelenting, even at 90 minutes, that it's like, it's hard to sit through. I found that it had just enough modulation in it that I wasn't put off by how just jarring it was. It was very immersive.
It was so immersive. I don't like war movies, and this is my kind of war movie. Like, I don't like I'm not anti-America, but
I know what you're saying though.
I don't like propaganda. I don't like watching propaganda in movie form, and this didn't feel like it. It felt like this feels like the video you show a kid if they're like, I'm gonna go to the Middle East and fuck everybody up. You like watch warfare, and then you come back to me and see how you feel about it. Like,
and they're like, I watched World of Warcraft. Is that what you said? I watched it.
But yeah, this is a special one, man. It's a special movie. Alex Garland, I love what he did with this one. It just feels like, from Ex Machina to Civil War to this to Annihilation. Like, I feel like his filmography is so all over the place. Even for two war movies that were not even that far apart, that feel so different. I love what this movie is, and I kind of want to see it again. I'm hoping that I get some time to see it again.
I would say if there's one thing, if you don't like it to see in movies, don't come see Warfare, and that is if you don't like messed up legs.
Yeah. Oh, this should be called Messed Up Legs. It shouldn't even be called Warfare. You want to see fucked up legs?
You want to see gory legs?
Yeah.
No, but it's like the way that stuff happens is so gritty and real. And like when I said like the agony, you really live in that moment of like, oh my God, you don't even think about it often in movies. The guy gets blown up, he's alive, they carry him off on a stretcher.
Right.
This movie makes you realize what agony every bounce of that stretcher would be if you had, if you were horribly injured. And the movie does not shy away from the visuals of that stuff. I've been telling you guys for weeks I'm afraid to watch The Pit because I don't like to watch that kind of medical gore. And then I go see this movie and I'm like, well,
you can watch The Pit. If you watch this, you can watch The Pit because this shit got...
Yeah, this is unsettling.
Yeah.
But also in the name of putting you in the experience, like living in the moment with these guys. It's very, I
did not realize that was I didn't know that was Cosmo Jarvis.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I mean, like...
A little mustache and a southern accent, and suddenly you forget,
killed it.
You forget who you're looking at, yeah.
So go ahead, see the shit out of this movie, Steve. Please.
Yeah, I actually almost went and saw it over the weekend.
Are you either one of you gang? Are you in A24 club?
No,
are you
I'm
gang?
I'm not
look,
in the A24
I'm gonna
club.
look, man. I don't $10 a month,
gang.
You every movie that comes out, you get an opening weekend ticket.
That's amazing.
Join the gang. Join gang.
Comedy gang.
Gang.
Well, that's a show.
Yeah,
I
man,
think
that's some good stuff. I mean, a lot of good stuff here on the show today.